Yo, let's get it, baby. I'm coming back from the Outback. It's your boy, Jonathan Keaton, in the cut. I was hunting some snakes. I was hunting some tigers. I was out there in the wild, baby. Whew. I had to gather myself a little bit. Anywho, you know what? That's Michael Wood. It's Jonathan Keaton. It's the 14 freaking 97 podcast, baby. It's good to be back. 4th of July, baby. Mike, get us going. I'm discombobulated today.
I mean, glad to be here on the 4th of July. You know, we had big sporting events earlier today in terms of Joey Chestnut capturing number 15. I just saw her name, but I forgot it. The woman who won the hot dog eating contest, that's her 8th straight. And then the chug contest, big boy took home his 2nd consecutive. So, yeah, a fun little American tradition. Sports don't get more American than eating as much food as possible in limited time. So that was cool. I didn't watch it. I just saw it on Instagram, saw all the comments calling Joey the Glizzy Gladiator, like you would expect. So, John, happy 4th of July to you, my man, and to all the people out there.
You too, Mike. You too. Man, it's good to be at the crib, just chilling on the 4th of July, celebrating everything that's been going on. Everyone, go pop some fireworks. Go eat some hot dogs. I was about to say some glizzies, but then I was going to. Anywho, go eat some hot dogs. Go do whatever, baby, and listen to this lovely podcast as we talk about whatever we're going to talk about today. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked about it last time, and I kind of said that it wasn't going to happen. You kind of said it wasn't going to happen. But Kyrie for Russ, apparently, the word around the league is it's not a matter of if it happens, it's a matter of when it happens. So my big question for you is, what do you think the trade package is going to look like that the Lakers are giving the Nets to get Kyrie Irving? Or do you think the Lakers might end up getting more than the Nets get in this deal?
I think the Nets are going to get more. And I love going back to the James Harden trade that the Brooklyn Nets did, because the Brooklyn Nets, for James Harden, they got Andre Drummond, they got Seth Curry, and then obviously they got Ben Simmons, and then I think they got a draft pick over that. So they got 3 players and a draft pick that I think they used in this draft class. With Sean Marks and with the mind that he has, he knows that when Kyrie plays, Kyrie is a top 10 player in the NBA. So he's going to want to get back for a top 10 player in the NBA. So I think a guy like Russ is obviously going to be in there, and the little bits and pieces that's holding the Lakers together, those strong pieces, are going to be acquired with Russell Westbrook. So I would say THT, Austin Reeves, and then another solid good player. So I think it's going to be Russ, another really, really good player on Russ's level, and then a solid player and a solid player for Kyrie Irving. So to answer your question, I think Brooklyn is going to get more out of the trade because Sean Marks is a smart man.
Yeah, I'm not going to discredit Sean Marks by any means, but what can he really do? Because let's be real, Kyrie Irving is not going to play for the Brooklyn Nets this season. He's not. That's just the fact. Russell Westbrook is willing to play wherever he goes. That man just loves to play basketball. So if you really think about it, is he going to just keep if the Lakers give him a bad package, is he going to keep Kyrie Irving just wasting away and not playing, not making any revenue, or is he going to bring in Russell Westbrook? At least fans are going to go to watch Russell Westbrook. I mean, both of us mentioned last year the Lakers. We were like, well, we don't know if he's really going to be a fit. But games where like LeBron, your stars aren't playing, Russell Westbrook will always bring a crowd because he's just that guy who shows up and plays as much as he can, as hard as he can. So in terms of revenue, I think Russell Westbrook actually brings in more. Actually, I don't even think it's really a question. I think he brings in more value than Kyrie Irving does just because of the amount that he's going to play, especially if you're the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, Kyrie might end up playing all 82 with the Lakers if he does end up in LA. But I think it's going to be kind of an even package. I do think that the Lakers are going to have to give up a little bit more than the Nets are, but I think it's going to be like Kyrie Irving and Joe Harris for Russell Westbrook and maybe like a couple picks. But I don't think they're going to give up anyone other than Russell Westbrook because I think that the Lakers like what they have, and they know that they don't have to give up too much because they're kind of in the driver's seat in this scenario.
I don't know about the driver's seat. And the reason I say that is because both of the values of the players are kind of in the atmosphere, just circling around right now. And I say that because Russ having the year that he had, having a bad year to start off, and then having a decent end towards the year, and then Kyrie barely playing and anything. Like in the back of Sean Marks' mind, Sean Marks is like, well, we know that Kyrie didn't play that much. We know that Russ didn't play that good, but we're still going to value them overall the way that the way that we're supposed to value them, because Russ is a top 15 player and whatchamacallit, Kyrie is a top 10 player. So I think the Nets might get a little bit greedy and try to get someone else, like possibly an Anthony Davis, because if they're in the driver's seat, wouldn't they already have they would have gotten they would have gotten Kyrie by now. Holy crap, I can't talk to that.
I disagree. The Lakers, you speak about Anthony Davis. The Lakers, when they got Anthony Davis in the first place, they were also in the driver's seat. That doesn't mean that the Pelicans can't ask for more, because the Pelicans knew Anthony Davis is not playing for us. Let's get him out. We have to get something in return for Anthony Davis. And that's what happened. The Nets can still ask for more and more, but the Lakers don't have to accept. So that's what they're trying to. The Lakers, like the Nets can offer whatever they want. The Lakers can offer whatever they want. But at the end of the day, the Lakers are the one who are going to decide whether or not Kyrie Irving becomes a Laker or not. Because the Nets really don't have a decision. Kyrie Irving is not playing for Brooklyn. He'll play maybe for the Lakers. We really don't even know. But the Nets cannot make Kyrie Irving play for them. So why would they want to keep him? The Nets need to get rid of Kyrie Irving because all he's doing is wasting away. You get a player like Russell Westbrook, at least you can try and win games with Russell Westbrook. You can. We've seen Russell Westbrook win games before. We've seen him be productive on a team. And also, if you're going to have a guy sitting away like Kyrie Irving, who you're claiming as a top 10 player, I don't think he's that good. You're claiming he's a top 10 player. Why would you not? You mentioned it. Why would you not try and get a big package for a guy like Russell Westbrook and maybe a couple other smaller players? But you might have to give up Joe Harris, maybe even Seth Curry. I do think the Lakers are going to get more out of this than people are expecting, just because we know Kyrie Irving is out on the Brooklyn Nets.
Those are some good points that you brought up. I'm not going to lie. Those were some really good points. I think in this Kyrie Finanza this Kyrie pandemonium that's going on, where if the Nets don't see anything that they like too, not to sound like counterintuitive or anything, they're going to be like, I'm not trading Kyrie. Granted that he might hold out or everything, but we still got to think Kevin Durant's still going to be there too if no one can get a deal done with him. So now they're just both in a situation where they're both sitting ducks and they have no choice but to play, because then the NBA is going to start finding them. And all that money that they're earning from the team, they're going to have to start using that money to pay these fines. And it's going to get to a point where they're going to have to play because they're getting such an excessive amount of fines.
I mean, it's not the NBA can't find them. Their team can find them. Like the Nets can find them, like we saw the Sixers do to Ben Simmons. But the difference between Sixers and Ben Simmons in this situation is Kevin Durant. I'll speak on Kevin first. Kevin Durant has actually gave his all to this team, and they haven't returned anything. The team that they put around him has not been good enough. Kevin Durant had to go up against the champions last year, the Milwaukee Bucks. He had to go up against them virtually alone. And if his foot wasn't a size 97, they would have won the NBA Finals because they were better than the Suns. At least Kevin Durant would have soloed that Suns team. So Kevin Durant is in a different position than Ben Simmons was, because they're not going to find this guy who gave him everything. Sure, he signed a big contract with him, but you can't blame him. He has done everything he can. If they get rid of Kyrie, they bring in good pieces. Maybe Kevin will be like, okay, maybe I'll stay. But I don't think that's the case. Kevin Durant won't play for the Nets, and Kyrie Irving. The thing with the Lakers trade is trading Kyrie Irving for Russell Westbrook is trading a problem for a problem. The difference is Kyrie Irving's problem is mental. Russell Westbrook's problem is kind of on the. It's I guess it's mental because he's got that mental block where he just can't get it done. But Russ's, unfortunately, his problem is on the court right now. And that's no disrespect to Russell Westbrook, one of the greatest players of all time. But right now, he's just fallen off, not a cliff, but he's slowly rappelling down one. So I don't see either of those two playing for the Nets. And I also don't see the Nets finding KD. They might end up finding Kyrie if they don't find a trade partner, but Kevin Durant for sure will not be on that roster. Kyrie Irving, maybe. And also a sleeper team for Kevin Durant is the Utah Jazz because all the picks that they've gathered from the Rudy Gobert trade, everything that they've been picking up. So watch out for Utah. But yeah, Kevin Durant won't be there. Kyrie Irving, maybe, and if he is, he'll probably get fined.
Do you think it's worth it for the Jazz? Because that kind of branches into what I wanted to talk about next with with Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant, apparently, this is just a nice, sweet version of what we call irony, because the Warriors have the best package that they can offer for Kevin Durant, who Kevin Durant left because he was trying to go prove himself. So we'll get to that in a minute. But I want to talk about the Jazz. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is going to have to be part of that trade. So is it even worth it if you're the Jazz to trade for Kevin Durant, or do you keep Donovan Mitchell and try to find pieces around to trade for Kevin Durant? Like, it kind of sounds like an easy question, but like if you really think about it, it's two dead end situations.
Well, I think where we're separated on is I don't think you have to give up Donovan Mitchell because that's what I brought up with that Rudy Gobert trade. They picked up so many first round picks from that trade. And granted, you can't you're not going to be able to trade all of them, but they're going to be able to make those moves. And they've got some players where they could give up for him, like Bogdanovich, just like smaller guys, like not guys that are going to help the Nets win, but if the Nets are getting rid of Kevin Durant, their team is going to be Seth Curry, Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond. Like that's just not a core of people that's going to win you a championship. Even if you get like Donovan Mitchell is not going to make that team a championship caliber team. He's not. So yeah, they're not going to want really. They'll want Donovan Mitchell obviously, but I don't think they expect to get Donovan Mitchell if they were to engage in that trade. I think the thing is any team that trades for Kevin Durant, if for example, say the Jazz do give up Donovan Mitchell, what are you doing? If you're giving up Donovan Mitchell a bunch of picks, you're going to be you will be better because if you're only giving up Donovan Mitchell and a bunch of picks, because Kevin Durant is better than Donovan Mitchell. But if you look at a team like the Warriors, who have been all of a sudden burst into trade talks, or you look at a team like the Suns, are the Warriors going to be a better team if they give up? I'm just making up a package here, but Kuminga, Wiggins, Wiseman, and a bunch of picks. I don't think that makes them a better team if they just get KD. And the same thing with the Suns. If they trade DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, is that they lose those three guys, three key pieces to that team. The Suns are not better if you're only CP3, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. CP3 crumbled in the playoffs. Devin Booker, he's Devin Booker, and then you got KD. That's not a championship team. Honestly, it's worse than the team you just had. There's very few teams that can offer a package that includes players that will acquire Kevin Durant and make them a better team than they were this year. The Warriors honestly might be one of them because really the three players I named, if the Nets accepted that deal, they would be silly. But it's just you have to pretty much, if you want to be a contending team, pick up Kevin Durant. You have to give up picks rather than players.
I don't know, because I think the Nets, when they give up those players, those top tier players, or any franchise that give up those top tier players, I think they want the best of both worlds. They want the picks and they want the players too, because you look at actually, I think if the Jazz, I'll say this: if the Jazz can work out, a deal like they did with Minnesota, where they just get a bunch of bench players and a bunch of draft picks, then I would be fine with that, I guess. But I truly think that with going back to Sean Marks and going back to his general management expertise and then the owner's expertise as well, that they're going to be pulling for Donovan Mitchell, because when they're in trade talks with the Suns, they flat out told him it starts with Devin Booker. We don't want anything but Devin Booker and everyone else. So I think Donovan Mitchell is going to be part of those talks on top of the draft picks, because what Kevin Durant has done and his value at the time, or his value now. So yeah.
I just I think what you're asking for is to get players and picks, which is right. Like, but
Mhm.
if you're asking for Donovan Mitchell, and like Bogdanovich and then a bunch of picks, I like sure that's going to get the job done if you're the Nets, but Utah's not going to give that up. They're giving up at this point two of their most important players and their future for one guy who's 30 something years old. That's just not something a team's going to want to do. A team is going to want to give up players that they don't necessarily need, and then they'll give up picks. But they want to be able to keep the core of their team intact. Because if you're just giving up a bunch of stuff for one guy, what does that really do for your team? Like, for example, the Lakers. Look at what the Lakers. So the Lakers traded everybody for Anthony Davis, right? If that was the only move that they made, and the Lakers were lucky that they had cap space and all that stuff, but if the only move that the Lakers made was trade Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, all those guys, Josh Hart for Anthony Davis, they would have been LeBron and AD against the world. Same thing with like Miami in 2011, 2012, like that Miami team. The first year, the reason they lost to the Mavericks is because they only had a team consisted of LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. That was their whole team, was three guys. You can't win a championship with three guys. You can get pretty dang far. I mean, we saw it with that team, but you can't win a championship. Brooklyn learned that. So if teams are trying to trade with Brooklyn, they should learn from Brooklyn's mistakes of trying to win with just three players. So trading for, granted, one of the best players in the world, one of the best players in the history of the game, it's going to make you better. But does it make you a championship team? I think that's where teams are going to like really question themselves. So that's why I think like the teams that do make trades are going to give up pieces that will probably end up making them worse.
That's why I'm on the side of them staying in Brooklyn because I don't see these teams giving up so much to get these players. Like, granted that I'm on like Kyrie staying for Brooklyn, the Kyrie one might happen because I think Brooklyn might just fold. And it might sound like I'm contradicting myself, but with Kevin Durant, for the asking price of Kevin Durant, it's already going to be through the roof, which it should, because it's Kevin Durant, two-time finals, 2 times finals champion, finals MVP 1 year, I think so, and a bunch of other accolades that you can go into on another occasion. But his price is already so high that it's like, okay, I don't even know if I want to give up all that because then we're just back to square one or once we get him, we're just back to square one. So it's going to be interesting to see who folds first. But I think with all of this going on, Brooklyn's in the driver's seat because they can ask for so much with these players to the point where the other teams are going to be like, well, I'm cool with what I have. I'm not going to really go out and reach for that because I'm getting worse as a team. I'm getting worse in the long run because their age and everything around it.
Yeah, I know that's what I'm saying. What you're saying, you're saying that Brooklyn is not in the driver's seat. You're just saying they are, but how you're explaining it is saying that they're not. Because Brooklyn, the way basically the driver's seat means that they will control if the deal is done. That's why the other teams are in the driver's seat because no team is absolutely
Um,
like
I
if we don't get Kevin Durant, we have no chance of winning. The 76ers not in on Kevin Durant. Milwaukee not in on Kevin Durant. The Heat, we honestly don't know what they're doing if they're trying to get Kevin Durant or not, but I don't think they have a good enough package to get Kevin Durant. But that's a team to keep an eye on because
mhm.
I just said I don't think they have a good enough package, which means and I'm saying that the other teams are in the driver's seat. So if the Heat get Kevin Durant, that's just proof of it. Like if they give up Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and I don't know, like obviously this is just a throw-in name, but Udonis Haslem and then some picks, like that obviously proves like there's going to be the team that gets KD is going to give up a package, and you're like, that's all it took to get KD. That's my opinion. It's going to be the same thing for Kyrie. So it's just going to be interesting to keep an eye on that because we don't know what else is going to be going on in terms of what players are going to be moved and whatnot. But besides just Kevin Durant and besides KD, are there any other big players, like big name players, that you think might be on the move? And this doesn't have to be a top 20 player, but like players that have probably like top 50 that you think might be on the move.
Uh, uh, to be honest with you, I thought John Collins was going to be on the move, but they completely fleeced the San Antonio Spurs and just getting DeJounte Murray for Daniel Gallinari and a draft pick. That would have been my guess. Other than that, that's about it. I think every team is kind of set in stone where with everything that they have and what everything that they need for the future that I don't see another big name player being traded other than possibly Kyrie, Russ, and Kevin Durant and Andrew Wiggins, whatnot, whatever happens in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, a couple guys that I think might be moving. One of them is Bradley Beal. I know he signed that extension, but I still think like there's possibility that he does end up getting moved at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And then on, I'm with you. I don't really know if anyone else is unless they're involved in that Kevin Durant or Kyrie trade. But a player that's interesting, and it's a terrible situation, but Miles Bridges. Do you think we don't need to talk about what happened because we know how bad it is, but do you think
Yeah,
Miles Bridges will find himself on an NBA roster?
I don't think so. I don't think so. The NBA deals with the severity of that situation a lot different than the NFL deals with that situation, meaning that what Miles Bridges did, I don't think a lot of people are going to want that publicity going on their team, and they don't want to take that chance. So I think Miles Bridges, with his NBA career, might be over with for the time being because of how serious it is and what the society that we're in now, that organization or French or professional sports leagues, they want to get this stuff right to where it doesn't reoccur in the future. So I don't think Miles Bridges will be on an NBA team for a while.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be on an NBA team this year, and quite frankly, I don't want him to be. I don't think he should ever
Yeah.
play in the NBA again because what that does, these players are supposed to be role models. I mean, growing up, everyone had their favorite sports player. For example, mine was Aaron Rodgers and Derrick Rose, my two favorite sport like athletes. If Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden does that to Danica Patrick, I think that's who he would have been dating at the time.
Mm-hmm.
If Aaron Rodgers does that to her and then gets back in the league, like that's not a good look. Same thing like Derrick Rose. Like if one of those guys does that, can you imagine the kids that look up to this guy as their idol? Sure, they might be like, oh, like that's pretty bad, but if he can get away with it, why
I can.
can't I?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, he should never play again in the NBA. And hopefully that's going to be the case. I've heard news that that's going to probably end up being the case. Um, but you never know. With you said the NBA is better than the NFL, they are, but we don't know. Um, we don't know what's actually going to happen because we haven't seen something I don't think this bad and then a player get away with it. So hopefully he doesn't get away with it, and honestly, hopefully he goes to jail to reform himself.
Exactly. So it's a lot riding on that. A lot riding on the situation. What do you think about DeJounte Murray going to the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah, I mean that's tricky. The reason I'm like kind of on the fence about it is because I don't really think that helps them win a championship. Obviously, it makes them better. I mean, DeJounte Murray is DeJounte Murray, one of the top 20, top 25 players in the NBA, one of the best two-way guards in the NBA. I don't know how much better that's going to make their team, especially because you're trading for another guard who not necessarily is ball dominant, but he needs the ball a little bit. So I don't know if it's going to help the Hawks win a championship. They'll probably finish as like the 4 or 5 seed. I don't see this doesn't make them better than Boston, who just got Malcolm Brogdon. It doesn't make them better than Milwaukee, and it doesn't make them better than Philadelphia. Those are three teams just off the bat. Honestly, I don't think it makes them better than Chicago. So it's a good trade. Like it makes them better, and especially keeping John Collins, like you mentioned, is key. But does it make them a contender? I don't think so.
I think another team like the Miami Heat should have traded for DeJounte Murray. It would have made the most perfect sense for the Miami Heat to trade for DeJounte Murray. Because if you saw the Miami Heat play in the playoffs, Jimmy Butler had the ball for the majority of, or no, he had the ball for every single minute of their game, and all of his supporting cast was just in and out of the lineup, in and out of the lineup. So Jimmy Butler had to play those minutes in order to keep them in the game. You bring in DeJounte Murray in a Miami Heat situation, Jimmy doesn't have to run the point. So then that saves a little energy for him to play defense, to go get those rebounds, to still hustle at the way that he was hustling, but he can do it a little bit less now because now he has a guy that can control the offense and can control the offense at a consistent rate. So I wish Miami would have made the move for him. The only bad thing about DeJounte Murray is DeJounte Murray can't shoot the three ball well and can't really shoot the mid range at a high, consistent clip. So with Trae Young, with DeJounte Murray, with John Collins, with Clint Capella, there's going to be a lot of lobs at the rim, but they had the same problem last year too with consistency from their other guys like Bogdanovich, from Kevin Huerter, and Okongwu. So I can't wait to see the Hawks what the Hawks really do with this lineup, because both Trae and DeJounte are going to need the ball. So I think one of them is going to have to develop the off ball movement and see how that meshes up with them both needing the ball. Because if you put two ball handling guards on the team, it makes it confusing, or not confusing. It makes it really hard because they both need the ball when you're trying to run the offense. So then when Trae Young is running the offense, then DeJounte Murray can't do anything to get the attention off of Trae Young because he needs the ball too to develop any cuts, develop any screens, all the movement outside. So we'll see. I don't think there'll be a 4 or 5 seed. I think there'll be like a 6 through 8 seed, though. I don't think they'll be that good because, like you mentioned, Chicago. Can't forget about Chicago. Can't forget about Milwaukee. You can't forget about Boston. You can't forget about Miami. You can't. A lot of people are going to sleep on this team. You can't forget about. Can't forget about Detroit. Can't forget about another team that I'm thinking about. The list goes on and on and on. So we'll see the impact of DeJounte.
The biggest thing for me, and it's what makes me want to say that I don't think it's going to work at all, is the thing with, you mentioned Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, right? Trae Young, I believe, led the league in assists, or he was top 3. DeJounte Murray was number 4. So you got two of the best passers in basketball going to be on the same team. You're like, oh, what's the problem with that?
Right.
They both do it in different ways. Trae Young's like a pick and roll kind of passer. DeJounte's like drive to the basket kick, right? Which you're like, well, that works perfect. So that's where I'm like, it seems like it's going to work perfect, but they're two guards, two like pass heavy guards. Trae Young is more of like I have to have the ball. He's like DeJounte gets however many assists he has, and he doesn't always have the ball. Trae Young always has the ball, always initiates with Trae Young. So they're two guys that I don't know how well they're going to work together just by watching them play. But if you look on paper, you're like, well, these two guys are going to work. Trae can shoot it. DeJounte will drive and kick. Trae will shoot it, pick and roll, kick. But if Trae Young has the ball, he drives, like hypothetical. Trae Young gets a screen set for him, comes off the screen. He gets his assist going to the roll man, or someone cheats off one of their guys, and then Trae Young will skip it. If DeJounte's the guy that he skips it to, that's a 30% three-point shooter right there, and you can't guarantee that's going in. So there's big question marks about how this fit is going to work, but I do like the fact that I'm going to keep bringing it up. They were able to.
Oh, snap.
Positive that he's going to stay. I don't think we can be positive that John Collins is going to be an Atlanta Hawk next year, but it's pointing to, pardon me, all signs are pointing to that he will be on the Hawks next year, but we can never be too sure. It is the NBA, and he still might want out because I know that was the big thing was he didn't really want to be there. He wanted more money than they could give him, so have to keep an eye on that. But DeJounte Murray, that's a big question mark. I don't think it's going to work, but we'll see.
Yeah, one more thing I'll say too is if Clint Capella rolls off the screen to the basket and then he kicks it to the basket, but then he doesn't have a layup and he kicks it back to DeJounte Murray, who DeJounte Murray's assist comes off of him driving, it's going to be cluttered already in the paint. So then it makes it harder for DeJounte Murray to even drive and then kick it out because he has no room to drive in. So then if he's not able to just find an open guy from the 3-point land or wherever he's at, then it's not gonna cut it because of what that one guy can do and what that one guy can't do. One guy's gonna have to figure out how to move off ball and how to facilitate by using their off ball skills. And then I think they'll be a top duo in the league. But right now, the hype should be piped down a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of how all trades are. You never know what the fit's going to look like, how it's going to work until we actually see the season start. And John, let's end with a little bit of we talked a whole lot of NBA. We talked a bit of NFL last week, but we didn't talk any MLB. So this week we're not going to rank them just because I've been kind of lazy making those rankings. But what we're going to do is talk about the White Sox. And I know it's like, oh well, it's the White Sox. It's our team. But the White Sox just swept the Giants and play the Twins here tonight. So are the White Sox finally going to make a push at the AL Central?
I hope so. Twins are still at the top. So when we have played good teams and we have beat good teams, we're not able to bring it over to the next slate of teams that we play. It all starts with Minnesota. We're at guaranteed rate, right? Or
Yeah.
do we go to Minnesota? Yeah. So this is a great time to bring that momentum. I think we beat the crap out of the Giants last night. So if we can do that, win 2 out of the 3. I'm not asking to sweep the Twins. If we can beat 2 out of 3 against the Twins, and that's just extra motivation. That's momentum going into these extra game or going into these other games that we have. We will be sitting golden for the AL Central because the AL Central right now is not the best of divisions. We digged ourselves a hole and we're still in the makings of first place.
Yeah, I mean, I believe the White Sox are 4 or 5 games back. So it's really not a big deal, especially this early in the season or haven't even hit the All-Star break. 4 games back is really nothing, or 5 games, whatever it may be. Especially coming up a 3-game series against the number 1 seed. If you beat them 3 times, I don't really know how that's going to work. But then you're 1.5 games back as long as the Guardians don't go on a tear. So this is probably the tightest. I would consider this like the NFC East of the MLB right now, just because it's so tight and no team is really dominant. None of the teams are dominant, but any team can really take over and win it. So I think the White Sox are going to start to pick it up a little bit just because all the injuries that they've had and they're still somehow staying afloat. So if they can get everybody back, get everybody healthy, the bullpen can finally start dealing a little bit. The White Sox will be a scary team, not only to win the AL Central, but maybe to compete in the AL, period. So it's going to depend on injuries, of course, because that's been the big crush this season. But if everyone gets back healthy and the bullpen can start finding their groove, the White Sox will be a team to look out for. Maybe to win the World Series, sleeper team.
Hey, one more thing, because we've been getting a lot of good views from what we've been doing. We're going to start by picking in between the players. So what I'm going to need you to do, Mr. Wood, is pick a sport.
Let's go cricket.
Whoa. I'll go crazy with the cricket now.
All right, let's do NBA.
All right, NBA. All right, our base player of today's picking in between is Draymond Green.
All right.
I'm going to start it off with John Collins or Draymond Green?
Draymond Green.
I'm going with Draymond Green too. Brandon Ingram or Draymond Green?
Brandon Ingram.
I'm also taking BI. Draymond Green or Patrick Beverley?
Draymond Green. Come on, huh?
if Patrick Beverly could facilitate, I'd pick Patrick Beverly. But I'm going Draymond Green. We got to disagree somewhere. There's got to be one player that we can disagree on. All right, Draymond Green, or doing this on the fly today. Okay, Draymond Green or Bam Adebayo?
That's tough. If we're talking like overall, because I'd take Draymond if we're talking playoffs. But if we're talking entirety, I'm taking Draymond. But if we're talking regular season,
we're talking entirety,
then I'm going to take Draymond.
I'm also going to take Draymond. Bam is just too inconsistent that it makes me very angry. What's that? 5? We already did 5 so far.
I believe so.
All right, last one. Draymond Green or Jason Tatum?
I know you're going to say Draymond just to try and stir some feathers, but I'm taking Jason Tatum. No brainer, not even close.
You want to know something funny? I wasn't even going to pick Draymond. I was going to pick Jason Tatum anyways.
Oh, all right. Well, that was too much agreement. So here's what I'm going to do, John. I'm going to go. All right.
Well, we're doing another one. Come on.
Yeah. Because we need to disagree a little bit more.
Come on, Mike.
Oh, what's going on here?
Basketball, football, tennis.
What do you want?
Let's go football, baby.
All right. Give me 1 second to cook up a base player here.
All right, cool. If you need help, Kirk Cousins.
Nah, because you're gonna pick Kirk over every single player that's ever played the game.
Not every single player, but majority of those players.
All right.
Don't sleep on top 10.
So, would you rather base player Leonard Fournette?
Whoa. Okay.
AJ Dillon.
Oh, tough one out the gates, baby. I'm going AJ Dillon.
I'm taking Leonard Fournette. David Montgomery.
Leonard Fournette.
I'm taking David Montgomery. Melvin Gordon.
We're talking about entirety, right? Like entirety, or like what we're talking about?
Going into next season, who are you taking? Who's better?
Lenny.
I'm taking Melvin Gordon. Damian Harris.
All the way.
Also a no-brainer for me. Tony Pollard. I'm also taking Tony Pollard. And the final one, this is tough. James Robinson.
That is a great way to end it. Taking James Robinson.
I'm going to also take James Robinson just purely for his pass catching ability. But yeah, so would you rather? That was Leonard Fournette. That was a good one.
Lenny, thank you for tuning in to the lovely 1497 podcast, baby. As always, follow us at 1497 Sports on Instagram, on the TikTok, on the Twitter. Help us get to 1,000 by the end of the summer. Is that crazy? Mike? Nah, it's not crazy. Subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. Like and comment on our videos on YouTube. Me and the lovely co-host, the greatest co-host, don't forget, the greatest co-host who ever walked the planet. We will be back this week. As always, trust the process and go eat a hot dog. Eat like 3, 4, 5. I don't know. Go eat a hot dog. We out, baby. We out. Yeah.